Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Code. Some people revel, have a pleasure in creating waves, and that's good. Honestly, these are the waves that create new patterns of thought. They are path breaking, and that's why they're welcome. But when such waves are just a ripple and die down after a few days, then there's some amazing. Some of the ripples, some of these waves are just signs of eccentricity and meaningless. But others bring a revolutionary change. As a matter of fact, each change in society takes place because of these so-called eccentricities. To begin with, everybody is eccentric. They say every new thought is eccentric. Hearsay, whatever you want to call it. But if that change, if that thought brings about a change in the social system, that's something amazing. And now, marriage is supposed to be the bedrock of family and the base of the society, the civil order as it exists. We used to hear in the past polyandry, one woman marrying many husbands. Then became polygamy. When the masculinity became strong, it was polygamy, one man having more wives. Then started civilizing, and monogamy became the civilized way. One man, one wife. Then some people indulge in bigamy, and of course, many indulge in polygamy. Sometimes that polygamy was hidden as mistresses. The kings used to have harems where hundreds of women would be at their beck and call, but their purpose was not marriage. It was not begetting children. It was not establishing a family. It was just sex. And now a new word has come into being with the last few days, years rather. In India, this has come for the first time. Kashma Bindu has decided that she is going to have sologamy. Sologamy, as it is called, doesn't have any legal standing. It has no social standing, and it has no psychological standing. But it has attracted more attention than most of the celebrity weddings. People are amazed, what is it, sologamy? And then they say it's marrying yourself. Now, marrying yourself is not new. As a matter of fact, examples of sologamy have been known quite some decades back. It started. And there are many more examples that were not in the media glare, but it was there. But the novelty of it will not disappear because this challenges the conventional building block of society. As I said, the base of society is family, and the family is husband, wife, or children. The institution of marriage is an extremely important pillar of family. So first, when the same-sex marriages came into being, there was quite a lot of shock to the people. But then slowly they adjusted. Though the concept of family as it is doesn't come out. A same-sex marriage cannot have biological children, so they adopt children. Well, still, nothing wrong with that. And now this, in India, this 24-year-old woman belonging to Vadodara, and Gujaratis, you know, are supposed to be quite entrepreneurial. So this Kashma Bindu announced that she is going to marry herself this month, and she calls it an act of self-love. And I always, you might have seen in my writings, in my speeches, in my thoughts of the day, I preach self-love. Self-love is important. But selfless love? Now marriage, when you marry, one of the major aspects is sex, to beget children. Now how would you have sex with yourself to have children? This is something which amazes me. So this self-love, sexual self-love basically, is okay, it can be accepted. People are indulgent in self-love. But then, is it a wedding? In India, this is the first instance of a kind. And this marriage is supposed to be after 4 days on June 11th. And the people are thinking, what sort is it? And then she wants to marry according to the religious rites. Now the point is, from her point of view, in Hindu system, you can be married to a tree, and people have been married to the trees because they say, the astrologer said, well, if this woman marries a male, he'll die. So okay, let's marry her to a tree. The tree would die and then she will have a second marriage with a male. So this sologamy is an act of marrying oneself in a public ceremony. It is also called autogamy. Well, such a marriage has no legal sanction. It has no status. For example, your name, so-and-so. Spouse's name, again the same. Father's, if you adopt a child, father's name is the same, mother's name is the same. So why have this charade, this show-off marriage? That is something which I have not been able to complete. Okay, you remain alone. There's no problem. The symbolic ceremony of marrying yourself can emphasize that, okay, I believe in self-love and I believe in independence. Now look at the history of this sologamy. It is traced back to 1993. There was a dental hygienist in USA who married herself, Linda Baker, in 1993, and it was widely considered to be the first publicized act of self-marriage. And it was attended by about 75 of her friends. And the bride said, I do to honor herself in sickness and in health until the day she's not there, she dies. Good. But then, as I said, why they have the charade, show of marriage? You live alone. Then, last year, a Brazilian model, Chris Galera, divorced herself. She had a solemn marriage, a sologamy. 90 days passed. She enjoyed a blissful married life with herself. And then she fell in love with somebody. So she asked for a divorce. And the guy said, look here, divorce is granted because there can be no dispute about it. You are divorcing yourself. Now what sort of self-love is that when you divorce yourself? Because self-love is supposed to be ever. So 90 days of sologamy, bliss, was replaced by monogamy. There are no rules or no social norms for this sort of marriage. They can be similar to two people wedding, or they may not be. And since the trend has picked up, service providers too have come up. It has become a business now. And they are happening all over the world. Can you believe it? When I read this, now there is an organization in Canada calling Marry Yourself. It offers consultancy services and wedding photography. Then in San Francisco there is imarriedme.com, which offers sologamy ceremony kits, including wedding bands and bows. In Kyoto, Sessa Travels offers a 2-day self-wedding package. Now coming back to this Indian girl, Vadodara Gujarati girl, Bindu, she will have a wedding complete with rituals, all the Hindu rituals of applying henna and things like that. The question arises, this is eccentric, it has no meaning, it has no social acceptability, it has no legal base. So why is this trend resonating across the globe? There must be some reason. In Vancouver, there is Marry Yourself, Alexandra Gill. And she says, Alexandra, for the first time in history, women can afford to live on their own, build their own careers, buy their homes, create their own lives, have children if they choose. Adopt. Why not? But when she says have children, she should say adopt children. Our mothers and grandmothers didn't have this option. This idea of sologamy could involve practice of self-marriage, but also turning the stigma of the sad, lonely spinsters on its head. Now, when she says that women in the past did not have the privilege of remaining alone or having children, adopting children, she is not very correct. We have seen in history that women have lived alone and they have adopted children. Can you forget first Queen Elizabeth I? She never married. So how can they say it? And there have been people in plenty all over the world who have lived a happy life. And when she said that they were having a bad feeling of being superstitious, it is wrong. Calling the girls who don't marry sad, lonely spinster is absolutely demeaning and stigmatizing. Then the common theme in most of the stories about self-marriage I hear is commitment to take care of yourself as one hopes and imagines a lover would. Now, there has to be difference. When you look after yourself from a different point of view, and a lover looks at a different point of view. The social interaction is always a two-way traffic. You can pat yourself on the back, but you cannot provide the same attention which your partner would. And then they say it's a unique solution to the problem of women sacrificing their own needs in relationship. Well, then don't marry. Remain alone. Marry yourself first, they say, before marrying anyone else. So that is okay. That is fine. You indulge in self-love, you pamper yourself, you do everything. But for God's sake, don't marry. Now, if I look at it in popular culture, there are TV shows like Sex and the City, Glee and the Doctor Who, and in that 2003 episode of Sex and the City, Carrie Bradshaw was shown wedding herself with the USA Today report later saying that this fictional character is the godmother of the sologamy. But in 1993, sologamy had been performed. So a commitment to oneself and the joy of wedding day without having to deal with what follows are among the reasons for choosing sologamy. And you would see humorists note that divorce is far easier than sologamy, like the Brazilian women. You simply say, well, I'm divorcing myself, and you're divorced. Nobody's going to blame you for bigamy if you marry somebody else. And curiously, all sologamies are performed by women. Till now, this disease, this infection has not been caught by the males. I don't know why. Maybe males don't love themselves. And as chances of being economically independent and live on your own terms go up, opportunities to question orthodoxy and prestige may go up too. Men don't marry themselves because even now the hierarchical social system favors them. In a male-driven society, whether a male marries a man or not is not considered a discussion point. I agree with that. A woman doesn't marry, a woman past, say, 30 years, 35 years, and everybody says, well, your daughter is not married, your sister is not married, and so on. And why are you not married? Have you had a setback? Nobody would ask a man, even if he's crossed 40, 50, 60, why did you not marry? So in a country like India, like Pakistan, where being a good wife is a sermon read to the daughters of even wealthy families, possibly sologamy can be seen as a self-contained, peaceful rebellion. As far as that is concerned, I'm all for it. Because old benchmarks have to be demolished and the new benchmarks have to be established. But if it is seen only as a trend to garner some publicity, it doesn't appeal. And still I would say, don't call it marriage. Call it living by yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. You have got every right to love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, you can't love others. It's as simple as that. So, that way, it's a new trend which is coming up, which on one side is okay because it justifies women independence, emancipation, freedom from the conventions. But that because it's essentially meaningless. And meaningless actions usually are not conducive to your mental health. You have a sologamy, and then you meet somebody, you fall in love with him, you marry. You may get a divorce, but there will be nagging thought. And this couple which comes together, in jokes, in anger, in resentment, the partner might say, oh, you couldn't live by yourself, you had to come to me. This is human nature. So why give a handle to somebody to insult you, humiliate you for an action which is meaningless? So live by yourself. That's welcome. There's no harm in that. But let marriage remain a marriage. Whom God has joined together, let no man put asunder. That is possible in marriage, not in sologamy. Think about it. Thank you.